fresh tights, new pencil case.
Oh, those were the days. Those were the days.
Hello and welcome to Green Queens,
the perfect podcast for imperfect environmentalists.
We are your hosts, Imogen Bogle, and she's Abbie Dewhurst.
Yes, she is. And she and her and I and everybody else back for Series 3.
I actually cannot believe that we're saying Series 3 because, season 1, Series 3 would have felt like a long, long distance away.
Yeah, we were just taking it every week, every episode as it came at that point. Whereas now we're strategizing. We've changed the release date. So welcome to Thursday, listeners. Woo, look at us.
Well, yes. And when we say we're strategizing, I suppose that is code word for we'd love it if we could monetize this podcast. If there are any potential sponsors listening, we will happily accept your hard-earned cash.
Yeah, that's exactly what we mean by moving our release date from Friday to Thursday. No, and we are putting bigger plans in place and stuff. And Series 3, I kind of feel like we're loosey-goosey now. We know what we're doing. We're well-oiled machines.
Yeah, and I have to say, whenever anything happens in September, it always has that start of a new term, end of summer,
fresh tights on.
To it. Fresh tights, new pencil case.
Oh, those were the days. Those were the days.
Oh, weren't they? And you'd put in so much effort to select that pencil case in the sort of last few weeks of August.
Yeah.
Feel like it was so dapper going into school.
Yeah. Rucksack hoisted up. But one thing that would always happen in September is that it would be like the full summer debrief. And I feel like that is probably what we should do to start Series 3. So Imogen, how was your summer?
Where to even begin? Because the summer was genuinely magical. Kind of started by two quite big things. The first was our incredible interrail trip to Portugal, which we'll put the links to those episodes in the notes, but that was just, it was unbelievable. It was such a highlight, and I'd recommend it.
Ever been asked so many questions about a trip as well. Literally, I was in the gym yesterday and someone was like, so how was the train?
Yeah. And I felt so amazing to be able to say it was amazing, and to say that really genuinely rather than like, oh yeah, it was good. But there was that. And then shortly after that, qualified as a yoga teacher, which is good. I've taught a few lessons officially since then, which again, good, because I was very nervous about doing that.
How was it?
It was good. And I've definitely mentioned this on the podcast before, but it is very different from the presenting job that we do. And I think I naively thought that it was going to be very similar to presenting or doing podcasts or whatever. But it isn't, because the role of podcasting and interviews is to make somebody else look good. And when you're a yoga teacher, you are really holding people's attention and telling people what to do with their bodies. But you're holding their attention, but it's nothing to do with you at all.
Yeah.
So it's been a very humbling and interesting process. But then from a work perspective, it's also been a mega summer, because obviously we've had some incredible guests during that time, but also we filmed something called Zap Peep Challenge with my normal day job, which is a reimagining of Scrap Peep Challenge, which many people will know from the 2000s, but this time for the electric era. So how can sort of old scrap be reimagined as these electric contraptions? So it's a very good lesson in recycling. So truly extraordinary production to be a part of. And then spent some time in Vancouver looking at some big old hydroelectric dams. It's been busy. It's been really busy.
And then tell the listeners what's happened in the last few days.
And in the last few days, we have adopted a dog called Emma. It's just so funny that she's called Emma. I don't know why it's so funny that she's called Emma. I'm just going to see what she's doing now. She's snoozing. Yeah, and she's 9. She's got cataracts. She's from Cyprus. She's from an incredible charity called The Underdog International. And she's just gorgeous. She's a Cocconi Spaniel mix. And what we believe happened, or certainly what the charity believe happened, is that she had a pretty loving home and her owner died. And then in the clear out of that person's house or whatever, she was just given to the kennels. So she's just very ready to accept some love in a new household.
That is
Which is
so
lovely.
sweet. And your dog Ted that you've had for many, many years has just kind of been like, well, fine then, if this one is staying. She's like, they've kind of got on quite well, haven't they?
Yeah. Do you know what? It's I mean, they're not best chums yet,
No.
but I have hope. And she's kind of just been like, okay, all right, I see how this goes. But what has been quite interesting is that in the morning, you go into the kitchen and like Teddy, normally she'll kind of like peer up and maybe wander over to sort of say hello. But since we've had Emma like wakes up and is like, hey, oh my God, you're back. This is such great news. And it's forcing Teddy to get out of bed really quickly as well, to be like, well, I want in on this action of this like stroking, if that's what's happening. So Emma is definitely making Teddy a little bit more active and engaged, which, you know, is a nice serendipitous thing that we didn't expect.
I'm just so pleased it has worked out, because I remember talking for hours on the drive down to Goodwood with you about this, and you showed me a photo of Emma, and I'm not going to lie, part of me was like, you have such a wonderful thing with Ted and you're also so busy. Why disrupt the peace? Like, this could end up being, and I know a few people that have rescued dogs from abroad, and it hasn't gone very smoothly at all. And so I was honestly so anxious for you that might happen, but obviously with great hope that it wouldn't. And the fact that it hasn't, and that it has been smooth sailing, makes me so thrilled, and also makes me, I think, more optimistic about rehoming older dogs. We rehomed Ruby when she was 7, and she was like, couldn't be asked to do anything by that point, let alone, you know, feel nervous or anxious or snap or be angry or anything. And so I wonder if the fact that obviously it's a huge upheaval to go through being moved abroad as well for a dog, like what a huge change in scenery, but the fact that she's a little bit older, like she's been around, she's seen life, she's like, yeah, here we go again, retirement home.
Yeah. And I mean, I should also caveat all of this by saying it's been 5 days.
Yeah, so, but I feel like you would know if there were going to be any huge great flags at this point.
I'd really, really hope so. And I think what I'm really reassured by is that because she's spent quite a bit of time at these kennels with, you know, where these donated dogs go to, she has seen a lot of dogs. She's had to be around a lot of dogs and be comfortable with that. So when we took her to a coffee shop, we were like, if in the first week we get to a coffee shop, that is a huge success. And if she hasn't felt too anxious about it and all the rest of it. And she met a golden retriever on the way who wanted to say hello. She was like, all right, say hi. I'm fine.
Aww.
And I can't even describe, because I mean, I was so nervous that it's such a huge risk and you don't know their personalities.
No.
And being totally honest, obviously, if a dog is highly, highly anxious, I'd like to make sure that they can have a nicer life. But I have to be realistic about how busy my job is as well. Yeah. So this huge fear of, can I do enough? Can I do a good enough job? Is quite contingent on her being like reasonably comfortable. And just like my heart, as we picked her up on Sunday, it just burst. It was just magical. And seeing these 2 dogs that we now have, it just all sort of feels like it's slotted into place.
You're giving it a whole new meaning to Secondhand September.
Yeah. Oh my God. Which is something that we definitely need to get into in this episode. But before we do, how's your summer been?
My summer has been very busy, very busy. Like you mentioned, the Portugal Interrail trip, and it honestly feels like that was about 10 years ago. Because I mean, this has been my first full summer properly as a freelancer as well. And for anybody that doesn't know, I spent 10 years as a staff member at the BBC as a presenter, and then last summer took the leap to freelance life, which means that, gosh, no 2 days are the same, but there is a lot of kind of covering other people's holiday and sick and stuff, particularly when it comes to the work that I still do in the BBC, which is I do a lot of radio cover and I still cover a lot of BBC weather shifts. And obviously, having been freelance for a longer time now, I've kind of done a bit of cover. People have been like, oh, well, we'll get her booked for various bits of annual leave that people have, of which a lot of people take in the summer. So I really fortunately got the chance to work pretty much full-time, if not more than full-time, for the BBC throughout the whole month of August. And that like was in the diary from a while ago as well, which is brilliant. So that kind of reassured me, okay, fine, at least summer's going to be really busy with work. But then naturally, like, opportunities present themselves last minute as well. So had some really cool opportunities through the podcast. Obviously got the chance to go to All Points East with the lovely people at Cupra, who I've done a little bit of work with on their the launch of their kind of electric cars over the last few years. So we did that last Friday, had that in the diary for maybe a couple of weeks, and then really last minute we got the opportunity to work at Leeds Festival, didn't we, to speak with the Climate Live team. Because of Emma and the scoop up of this amazing magical rescue dog, you were like, yeah, I'll do it, and then immediately you were like, I cannot do it. This is too much.
I just, to pause on that, I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. Of course we should go to Leeds. This is incredible. And then I was thinking about Emma and the dog logistics and just how much stuff I've had on with work recently. And it's meant that, you know, several house projects have kind of been abandoned.
Yeah.
And my husband Deep has shouldered so much of that responsibility. And I was like, no, this weekend we need to like ready the house for Emma, and I actually need to help him go to the tip. So I made the sensible decision, but did see your Instagram, was like, oh, it does look amazing.
It was amazing. But I think also this is a prime example of my mum always saying to me, Abbie, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And I think actually had we have agreed, again, really last minute, they wanted us to do a live podcast recording. We were not prepped. We've taken a break from the podcast. We've been kind of planning ahead for series 3, of which we are now in. And it would have been a bit kind of kick, bollock, scramble. But thankfully what they ended up coming back to me with was, okay, well, how about you interview somebody on stage at Leeds Festival, mental, on the Orc stage, which ended up being wonderful because she was brilliant. Caitlin Hare, I think her surname is. She's a creator, secondhand vintage fashion. She was so vivacious and her style was incredible. I didn't need to prep loads for that because she was a northerner as well, so she could talk. And it was just a really wonderful experience because it meant that even though it was chaotic, we were at All Points East on Friday and then we were at Leeds Fest on the Saturday, and we had to get up at like 6 a.m. and Jake very kindly drove me from London to Leeds to do the festival. And then was my +1, may I add. So did have backstage access to Leeds Fest, which is pretty badass, but also he was so exhausted that he had to have a little power nap at the festival.
Oh,
no, a little disco nap. 2 festivals in 2 days in your 30s is, it's harder than you would think. And I think just like the adrenaline from all of that. So that was August bank holiday weekend. And then I worked a weather shift on the Sunday, and then I covered a radio show Monday, and then kind of straight back into the BBC cover. So I was saying to you before we got on this call that I think this summer has been a really good example of, it has been so fun, and there has been this incredible mix of work, and then like work. But ultimately, it is still work, and it is still using some form of kind of battery, whether that be social or like. And a lot of the stuff I'm doing is so exciting that my adrenaline, like my nervous system, has kind of been quite heightened since probably March. And so I think you may hear the franticness in my voice and storytelling at the moment. For full context, today is my last day at work, and then I am going on holiday for 2 weeks, and it's going to be a real switch my phone off, read 6 books kind of holiday, recharge the everything battery. So it has been the best, probably one of the best summers of my life. But I think that comes with like the reminder that we still need to sit down and have a cup of tea every now and again.
We do. And it was so lovely seeing you do everything with Leeds Festival, because I was sort of watching from Instagram being like, whoa, look at her go, like she's so good. But then also in the back of my head thinking, I know how you've had to travel, I know the logistics that you've had to do for this, and I just hope you're having a little moment, which of course you're going to have in spades in this holiday for the next 2 weeks. So.
Yeah. Do you know what I will say also? I feel like being back at Leeds Fest. So Leeds Fest was my first ever festival when I was like 17 in 2010. And I mean, God, I felt old going back there because it's a very young crowd as well. It's like,
it's very much a post A-level results kind of crowd.
I was like
PTSD results kind of crowd.
Yeah, I was like, should my bum cheeks be showing? Because everybody else's are. I'm so confused. But it felt very full circle. And I did say to Jake, I was like, I feel like this is genuinely one of the first times that I've thought, Jesus Christ, if my 17-year-old self could see me. We arrived like via the artist production entrance. We parked, I kid you not, like right behind the main stage. It was mental. We got our like backstage pass. I was on a buggy. It was very cool. But like you say, that wasn't just something that kind of happened and it was just this magical experience. Like there was a lot of additional stress that went into it. But I think sometimes you have got to do those sorts of things because hopefully now that's opened up, who knows what sorts of possibilities for the podcast going forward, and just really bloody cool.
It really was. And I think, you know, it's such one of those moments of like, okay, this podcast is getting listened to. People are interested. We must be doing something right if the topics that we're choosing are encouraging that kind of audience as well. So I guess that's a bit of a segue as to what can we expect? What are we looking forward to in series 3?
Yes. And I think also like series 3, we're kicking off in September. Naturally, we have to talk about the fact secondhand September. But I also think kind of going back to the summer, I have been doing a lot of looking at what the weather has been like, obviously, in my day job as a weather presenter. And I have covered a lot of the weather this summer as well. So it genuinely has felt like every single time I've been in a BBC building and I've been logging on, there has been a news producer, because this is always an interesting one. Our job as a weather presenter is to forecast the future. But when you see a news producer or an editor coming up to you, you know it's because the weather is making the news, which in the summer isn't that unusual, I suppose, because often there's not a lot of like big news and, you know, everybody's on annual leave. So it's an easy thing to talk about the weather. But this year in particular has been a really newsworthy weather year in terms of summer. It is still, we'll caveat this by saying we're currently recording this on the 28th of August. So the full proper Met Office stats for summer, which meteorologically ends at the end of August, aren't out yet. However, I can say I would go with 98% certainty that very little will change in the next few days. And it is looking very, very likely to be the warmest summer on record again. And we have said that many times over the last decade. Very dry as well. Whether it will be the driest, I don't know, quite possibly. But we are still in a drought in Yorkshire. It is incredibly dry. I've had a few people comment and say, well, hang on a minute, a few years ago it was 42 degrees and we've not got that hot this year. So how can this be the warmest summer? But it's the average mean temperature. We have seen 4 heat waves this summer, which has meant that four times over the last few months, we have seen the temperatures get to a certain threshold and stay there. So it's the prolonged heat that we've had this summer that has made it so unusual, and the amount of times that it's happened. And then throw in a storm. We had a storm in the summer as well, Storm Floris, which again is pretty unusual. So I just want to touch, yes, it was very fun in terms of what we, you know, the activities that we did. And I think those two things probably kind of go hand in hand as well, because you guys came up for the weekend. We had amazing weather. It was dry. It was sunny. There have been other things, barbecues, events. Leeds Fest was dry, although the dust at the festivals.
Oh my God. I bet you felt it in your teeth.
Nose, went to All Points East in London and was blowing my nose black for a few days. And I did just a really quick reel, like, 2025, the year that the dust replaced the mud, because obviously it's kind of been like tradition that you wear wellies to a UK music festival. And it's like caught some sort of algorithm, because I guess everybody's like, yeah, the dust was wild.
Yeah.
And if that's not an indicator of how our climate is changing, just in like popular culture, I don't know what is.
Yeah. And I suppose there's always that conflict about the weather when the summer has been extraordinarily warm. And for me, I am a warm person. I feel like I am at my peak operation.
Same.
When it's 24 degrees.
Yeah.
I feel like unstoppable. And, you know, if the temperature creeps below 16, I'm like suddenly like, 17 jumpers and it's too cold to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've loved the heat. I've loved how much it's enabled me to do. But just then in the back of your mind, you're like, yes, but.
I know. It's a weird conflict, isn't it, doing what we do? And like, particularly because I forecast it so much as well. Like every single bulletin I've done pretty much, I've been handed to by the presenter going, Abbie, please tell me that the nice weather's going to last. And I'm like, yes, but we need rain.
Yeah.
but like you said, I don't mean it because I want it. I mean it because I know it in my heart of hearts. But it is always this weird situation. Yeah. So I don't know what the answer is as to how we kind of deal with that.
So I think you'll appreciate this. Yesterday, I was definitely doing delaying tactics about going for the run that I needed to go on.
Yeah.
I, like many millennials our age, have the runner app, and you have to do what it tells you to do, which yesterday was 1 kilometer sprints. And I prefer just a long, prolonged plod than sprints. So the delaying tactics were out in force. And just as I was ready to go, headphones in, connected to my phone, it starts raining, like quite dramatically. And I was like, well, my trainers are on, I have to go out. And I went out for this run in the rain, and I feel like I had a true Drew Barrymore moment. I was like, the gardens need this. We've been gasping for this rain. And I was so pleased. And then, yeah. Anyway,
did you have playing in your headphones that miracles happen once in a while with you and me? Hilary Duff. There she goes.
Yeah, on repeat. Yeah, you know. Oh dear.
You do need dramatic music, or what's the other one? That Heather. What have you done today to make me feel proud?
So what I have found, especially when you're extremely jet lagged, and you need to go for a run, is put on musicals, because those musicals, like, they tell a story. There's a lot of emotion. Nicole Scherzinger, who is currently in, I forget the name of the musical because I've not seen it, Sunset Boulevard or something like that. Oh, that's a good song to run to. You feel like you go through every emotion in that song.
Do you know what else is a good one? Christina Aguilera, the Stripped album. Wow.
The one with the black and white. Oh, yeah. I actually remember Emily Davies. If you were listening to this episode, you're about to be mentioned. Me and Emily Davies did a dance to that in year 8 PE.
Yeah, there was a lot of, like, I used to do the dance to Dirty as well. You know, that music video was filth. I think she was wearing crotchless pants. And my parents would just sit there on an evening and be like, for goodness sake, Abbie, do you need to again? And I'd be stripping away to Dirty. Gonna get ready. Not in the crotchless pants, although, like, legit, if they'd have bought me some, I probably would have done. Ugh. Anyway, do you know what was interesting on that? So at Leeds Fest, Chapel Roan, wow, she's incredible, was playing, and all these little girls were there in their pink cowboy hats and cowboy boots, like kind of Taylor Swift vibes. And it was wonderful how much they were enjoying it with their families. But I was like, these lyrics are like actual filth. And they're singing along with their dads. Like, I won't do it because the lyrics are so bad. But and then I thought, well, it was only the same in the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah. And and you're like, well, maybe just like in the future, you can reflect on what some of these things mean.
Yeah. We don't need to talk about what that means right now. Anyway, secondhand September.
Yes. So why don't you tell us, what does it mean and what should we all do about it?
Well, I think it's a good one to ease yourself in with, really, if you are a compulsive shopper, because the whole aim of the game is to not buy anything new for the whole month of September, which doesn't necessarily mean you can't buy anything, which if you are a shopaholic might feel quite daunting for a month. It just means try and shop from somewhere that is secondhand, preferably charity shops, vintage shops. If you want to go secondhand online because you're an online shopper, Vinted is a really good place to start. And my top tip for people getting into Vinted is set up an account and start liking away. Put a few brands in, favorite a few items. The algorithm on Vinted is incredible at learning what you like.
Isn't it? And I will tell you a recent anecdote of this, because I have come to the conclusion that as a woman in my 30s, I feel I'm at a point where I should have a handbag that lasts and hopefully lasts for like 10 to 15 years and should be good quality. Ideally, I'd like that to be secondhand. And I know that I need to be willing to spend a little bit of money on that.
Yeah.
Save my pennies. So you go on Vinted, you find a few that you like, you literally spend 5 minutes liking some stuff.
Yeah.
And then you come back and it just
the algorithm
gently encourages you some amazing things.
It is good. And I think, like I say, secondhand September is a good one, because it's not like you're not allowed anything. It's not saying don't do anything, don't buy anything. If you really want to scratch that itch, you can. So hopefully it's a really good way to just ease people in. It's also a month where you might be back at work, you might be back at school, or if you're like me, you might be jetting off on a holiday. But so, like, life is kind of returning to normal anyway, you know. It's not really a month of tons of events and things. So hopefully it's not a case of people being like, oh, but I've got this thing that I really need to go to. And if it is, maybe you can have planned for that a little bit more. And even if you do, it can maybe allow you to be like, okay, but can I scratch that itch, but in a secondhand way? So I'm sure that you would have heard about it now. It's actually a campaign that I think Oxfam run.
I think so.
It's raining and there's washing out. 2 seconds. Must save the towels.
Yay, rain. Boo, washing.
Where was I? So I think it's technically an Oxfam campaign. However, anybody that cares about the impacts that the first-hand fashion, and particularly the fast fashion industry, is having, will be on board with this as something that is a really good thing to try for September. So hopefully you can give it a go. And if you want any more tips, we have got a brilliant guest coming up in the next episode.
Well, yes. And also, if you can't wait that long, go back and have a listen to the Vinted episode that we did. Also, Less Waste Laura, she's got some fabulous tips as well, particularly around weddings. So we can link to all of those as well.
Yes. And on the note of weddings, may we just take this moment to congratulate the guests that we had towards the end of series 2.
Yes, Going Green Media.
I think Kira from Going Green Media. Oh, that engagement post that they did was so beautiful. And it came out at a really similar time to the Taylor Swift and Travis, what's his face. And I was like, I think we know who the real kings and queens of the engagement are here.
I'm so glad that you've said that, because I had the exact same thought. Yeah. Like, oh, God, share an engagement day. That's so good. That's so fitting.
Going Green Media, they're engaged.
Oh, but also you mentioned briefly our guest that we have next week.
Yeah.
Are there any guests that you're excited about in series 3?
Are there any guests I'm excited about? Of course there are. We are going to be meeting a wonderful woman who I have interviewed before, but it's been a couple of years now, who has set up the most heartwarming company to do with teddy bears. I won't say much more, but that is coming soon in series 3. What about you?
Well, we have just finished a recording of an episode with Kew Gardens, and it was amazing, not least because I think I went into it being like, okay, like, well, I don't know a tremendous amount about this. Let's sort of see. And I came away with just oodles of notes that are totally illegible. Yes, illegible on my piece of paper. But so much interesting insight that has genuinely transformed how I think I'm going to walk around green and urban spaces, possibly for the rest of the time. It was amazing.
I think that has really nicely summed up what this experience has been like over the last couple of months, to be honest, and what I kind of hope for it to be going forward. Like, you and I have worked in this industry for a really long time, but we have only ever really scratched the surface of things. And so I think a lot of people come to us expecting us to know a lot, and we know a little about a lot. We don't know a lot about a lot, whereas we get to speak to people who do know a lot about a little, if that makes sense. And like the Kew Gardens interview that we just did, for me as well, as somebody that has spoke about the weather, but also spoke about how dry and hot it's been, and how that is making our nature currently look like we have it kind of experienced false autumn, where our trees and everything has just gone into complete meltdown, and the heat stress and how they've reacted to the extreme weather that we've had. So then to be already aware of that, and already be kind of the person that a few people are coming to asking questions, but then for us to be able to go to the people that really study it in so much detail, that is what I love about doing this, and that is what I'm really looking forward to going forward, is that then we just get to totally nerd out with these things.
And I think, if anyone listening has a particular question, for example, what is false autumn and why is that happening? Tell us, put it, get in touch on Instagram or, in any of the comments or whatever. We will go and find the expert and go and ask the most obvious basic questions, so that we can all feel a bit more informed and a bit more empowered.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we want to introduce to series 3, and we're going to trial, is a sustainable business shout out, which we've been sort of conjuring up various sort of recommendations, but actually we want to hear from the companies themselves. So we do actually have one today, and what we're asking people to do is to send us a bit of a voice note to say, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah. And on that note, we probably need to set up an email address. We'll do a little bit of admin, and then we'll be able to give you where to send it to. But for now, you can just DM us on social media, green.pod, and we will get better with administration. But for now, our first audio version of Sustainable Business Shout Out is
We Are Repairs, and I'm going to give their little voice note a little play now. We're reacting to this live as we speak.
Hi, I'm Ali.
And I'm Jem.
And together we've created We Are Repairs, an online directory of skilled repair businesses across the UK.
A little bit about us. I'm an upholsterer and Ali is a wooden furniture restorer. And we met 5 years ago as repair business owners and bonded over our love of vintage furniture, didn't we, Ali?
Yes, we did. And one of our main frustrations was seeing how much good furniture ends up in landfill. The stats around this are scary. Every year, the UK throws away over 22 million tonnes of furniture alone.
And that's just furniture. When you add in tech like phones and computers, clothing, shoes, toys, the list is endless.
And there's no such thing as thrown away. All our broken stuff has to go somewhere.
Exactly. So what if we told you these items don't have to end up in landfill? Most of the time, all they need is a simple repair to keep them in use.
But where do you go to do this?
That's when we came up with the idea for We Are Repairs.
We want to build a world where repair, not replace, is your first choice.
At wearerepairs.com, you can find a local, skilled repairer who can fix your broken homeware within just a few clicks.
So good.
By supporting repair, you're not just saving your favourite items. You're helping to protect the planet and backing the skilled craftspeople who keep traditional repair skills alive.
These are the artisans, the master repairers, the small business owners working tirelessly to restore quality and craftsmanship in a throwaway culture.
So join us in rewriting the story of waste.
Here's a challenge for you. That pile of broken items you've got in your home, why not get them fixed?
Head to wearerepairs.com now to find your local repair hero.
Oh my goodness, I'm obsessed. What a great idea, because I'm so bad at mending, fixing, sorting, anything.
And do you know, we have got so many bits and bobs that like we just need to get around to fixing. And I would way prefer that we do that locally as well. Yeah. And I mean, they have set the benchmark very high for
that was a very well-crafted voice note. Thank you so much. So We Are Repairs, our sustainable business shout out for Series 3, Episode 1.
Well, that is probably all that we have time for today. So we probably should say goodbye and get you off to packing your suitcase for your lovely holiday.
Yeah, you have a date with an accountant and I have a date with a suitcase. So sorry, guys, we got to cut and run.
And I feel like that aptly summarises the breadth of what you can expect on this podcast.
From Series 3.
Well,
it has been wonderful to catch up with you. I have missed you.
Me too. And especially because we've been quite savvy with Series 2 recording over the summer. They've been like, we've had them in chunks and then we've had a couple of weeks where we haven't spoken to each other as much. And it's so nice to get Series 3 into the rhythm of weekly recordings and weekly catch-ups, frankly.
Yeah, indeed, Leo. So we'll see you next week, shall we?
See you next week.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Green Queens.
If you did and you'd like to hear more, we'd be so very grateful if you could like,
subscribe and join the Green group chat for weekly episodes.